yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball, who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington's out on assignment. I think he got assignment from the wife, making sure that he took the nephew out to the baseball game, talking about the Astros. I did my duties yesterday with Deuce. We took a round tour, went to the College World Series, came back, went to the, well, not all the way back, went to Dallas and then up to Kansas, check out the Negro League Baseball Museum, made it home, and then decided to check out a baseball game for the Juneteenth weekend as we were invited to that. So full weekend. It seemed like we did about a week worth of travel, Charles, but it was only 4 days. We left Friday and came on back Monday. It was pretty wild. But we got it all in. Deuce continues to be on the loose and gets it done. With that being said, welcome to episode 404, the Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. For institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, so we have none other than A.D. Drew. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to our KCOH 1230 AM studios with the multi-Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. I tell you what, it is looking at my computer, it's about 104 degrees outside right now here in Houston, Texas. No golf when it's above 100
was hearing all this about all this heat. Now it wasn't that hot, Midwest. And I came back and folks told me it's hot. I didn't realize that it was that hot. So thanks for the reminder, Charles.
Scorching.
You fried egg.
Yeah.
Drew, is it that hot where you are, or you still dealing with the storms?
No, we got a day without rain today, but it will be back Wednesday, Thursday, and possibly into Friday. and because of the cloud cover, it only got up to 76 degrees here today. So I'm loving it here in South Georgia, temperature-wise, but not necessarily weather-wise, because, like I say, Noah must be my new neighbor where I moved to, because it's been raining like Noah's Ark is around the corner from me here in South Georgia. And you say you went to the Negro League Museum in Kansas City?
Yes.
I've been there. That Negro League hat that you see me wear, I actually bought that at the Negro League Museum. And that was an experience.
Yeah, it was pretty nice. Deuce actually ran the bases inside, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
He got a little miniature bat with the Negro Leagues on it and got baseball as well, so he was happy. We went to Arthur's Barbecue down the street. With those famous sandwiches, because I wanted him to get a taste of the Texas barbecue and Kansas City barbecue and see what he thought. The size of the sandwiches is crazy. They pile up all this meat, so we got this double sandwich. Half sausage, and they had these huge sausages, so they slice it like that. So they just layers of sausage meat, Subway type, if you think about it, but barbecue cooked. And then they had the brisket. not the same flavor, but it was good. But they certainly gave you a full amount of food because we couldn't even finish it there. It was him. I had just one plate. We shared it. No fries or nothing like that. It was just too much meat when he started piling up on that sandwich. I was like, we don't need the fries.
So wait, with that being said, Dr. Cavil, Texas barbecue, Kansas City barbecue.
I'm biased. But I'm gonna
see, he already gave it away, Charles. He really liked that Kansas City, but he can't say
Charles, yeah, I'm biased. Texas barbecue. It wasn't even close for that, man. But I mean, it was good. But Charles get a kick out of this. I asked Deuce which one he liked. Guess what he said? What barbecue he liked?
Mississippi barbecue?
Yeah, so I don't know what Look, every time I look up, he said something. I was like, man, Charles been talking to him again. I was like, man, they do fish.
You might as well go ahead.
Barbecue over there.
You might as well go ahead and sign Deuce on over to Jackson State University right now, where he will be well taken care of.
I know.
I thought about Deuce.
Would never live it there.
I thought about Deuce the other day because they had their band camp this past weekend, and I said, man, probably about another 12, 13 more years or so. I could see him right over there in band camp. So
yeah, he sure will be. We'll be staying in the hotels, going down there trying to figure it out. I said, man, this is going to be hard to explain. Come on. Go ahead, AJ.
And so you forgot to do one thing with your barbecue while you're in Kansas City. I don't know if y'all do it down there in Texas, but you got to put the potato salad on top of the meat, in between the bread, make the bread extra soggy with the mustard for the potato salad, and eat it like that. That's the only way to eat it when you're in KC, Dr. Cavil.
See, I didn't know any better, and they did have a potato salad. But I was like, no, I didn't want it. But I didn't know that was the reason they sold it like that, because you're supposed to be prepared to. Yeah. You learn something every day. I appreciate that, Adrian.
I'm kind of glad I learned late, though. You got to get you some St. Louis barbecue and some Memphis barbecue, and then come back and ask you your palate once you get those two.
Great point. With that being said, let me go to you, Charles, for a quick news. We'll have some news on the back end as well. But anything exciting going on that's on your mind right now?
Yeah, let's take a look at 6 HBCU players advanced to the XFL Combine after a workout in Atlanta. And this past Saturday, the XFL held its second HBCU showcase hosted by Clark Atlanta University. 6 players among the 100 participants took part in the event and earned invites to the XFL Combine after going through drills in front of league personnel. Those 6 players are Cameron Grandover Jr., wide receiver from Morehouse, Stafford Anderson, running back from Alcorn State University, Tyler King, running back from Edward Waters, Joshua Reed, linebacker from Grambling State, Joseph Stuckey, linebacker from North Carolina A&T, and Janan Liddell, I should say, defensive back from Kentucky State. So these 6 players will be moving on now to get another look-see by the likes of the XFL. So kudos to those young men for participating in that combine and getting another look.
Good stuff. Kudos to all of them for getting their shot. DC Defense head coach Reggie Barlow himself, a produced product of HBCUs, as we all know, starting as a player at Alabama State and enjoying winning runs as a coach at Alabama State and Virginia State, as well as playing in the NFL for a while. Was there. The showcase created a platform for players, HBCU, so he's finding ways to continue to represent HBCUs. With that being said, Drew, what's on your mind in terms of the HBCU news of the week?
Well, since it's the midst of baseball season, let's see, you went to the baseball game yesterday. Charles mentioned that he was trying to go to the game tomorrow. So let's talk to MLB, Dr. Cavil. And let's talk HBCU players showcasing their talent for the 2023 MLB Combine. This comes from HBCU Sports. After not a single HBCU player was selected to participate in the first ever MLB Combine, 2 standout performers will work out among the top amateur players in the country. North Carolina A&T pitcher Xavier Beecham and Bethune-Cookman infielder Highland Hall will be in a group of 343 college and high school players at the Major League Baseball Combine this week at Chase Field in Arizona. And if you want to watch them work out, you can tune into the MLB Network. We missed it today, everybody, but there will be some more workouts on the MLB Network as of tomorrow.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Shout out to those young men and wish them the best as they continue to push for their careers at the professional ranks, both in the XFL and Major League Baseball. That's pretty good. Yeah, the College World Series, man, we stayed in a hotel literally right next to the new stadium that was built, so we could walk across the street, had great seats. Man, that's a magnificent venue that they built up there, multi-million-dollar venue in there. It's pretty good baseball being played at that level. Duke said it again. He says he went from basketball, taking a team to the Final Four in basketball. Now he's ready to take a team in baseball to the College World Series against that Final Eight. I said, well, whichever way you want to go, we'll figure it out. I'll make sure that I'm there to see you do your thing. So that was pretty cool, as he was still representing HBCUs to the fullest, even at the College World Series. But we had a great time. We enjoyed it. Continue to do what you do, Deuce. We all support you. With that, we'll take our first break, come back on the other side. We got some more polls out here. We asked this question a week ago and said, was anybody going to not take North Carolina Central number one in terms of these votes? AD Drew, you said maybe. Charles said, no, don't do it. We'll come back on the other side and see if that happened in the HBCU Gameday Poll. For those that read it, you already know. But we're going to bring in, I guess, to talk about it a little bit and see what our co-hosts think about it. We'll go through some rankings as we continue to get you ready for your football season. It's almost here. Stick with us. We'll be right back on the other side after this break.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go, why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. We have our guest in the building today, Stephen Gaither, HBCU Gameday. They dropped a top 10 poll rankings. We're going to get a little discussion. We do that. Before we do that, I want to shout out to Theron Waters. He was first in the lab, first in the class today, sitting up front, ready to go to get into the lecture. Shout out to Chuck Hunt, Ricky Burden, also in the building, HBCU Heritage Center, always in here taking care of business. Silas Edward McMorris, Carl Moore, Jerome G. Sutton, Carol Keelam, G. Boom Holly are all in the building as we get into talking a little bit about the poll ranking, getting ready for Steve Gaither. With that being said, Steve, as I know this is a composite of the voters for HBCU Gameday, can you give us a framework of what metrics you use for voters or what they kind of think about in regards to getting into the top 10?
Yeah, Doc. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. It's this is year 2 of the poll for us. Famously last year, we left off North Carolina Central, and they ended up winning the Celebration Bowl. And Trey Oliver let us know from EAC Media Day all the way until I mentioned it on the podium, accepting the Celebration Bowl trophy that someone the people left them out for the top 10, and I think we were the only ones. So, which is kind of why I personally had I kind of never really wanted to do a poll ranking, but we're a team, so we decided to do a team poll and everything like that. So, so basically, it's just our staff. I don't think that we necessarily had any specific criteria. I think everybody just kind of. I know the position that I took, and I think the most of the team took, just kind of looking where folks were last year, what they have, what they have coming back, and then also, what they may have added. But, as we've seen over the last couple of years, those additions can often be misleading. They may, sometimes the last couple of years, the teams made the biggest splash, especially via the transfer portal, hasn't necessarily delivered. And then you have a Jackson State who was able to cash in on it. So that's kind of, how I looked at it, just kind of where they were last year, what changes have been made, who has momentum, and then today, we even put out a couple of teams that may be the next team to make us look silly. So we'll see what happens.
Stephen, this is the great thing about the poll rankings. Everybody loves to talk about it. Don't worry about it. I've been blessed, and we've been doing it for 20 years. Sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't. So let it roll off your shoulder. It's the good thing that you had a coach that was that curious, because the first thing coach tell you, we don't worry about the poll rankings, don't they? Now all of a sudden, he's like, oh, we not in your top 10 poll rankings. I thought you didn't worry about the poll rankings, coach. But I get it. So don't worry about it. This is the way we're going to do this. We're going to do your bottom 5, include receiving votes. And then we're going to get AD, Drew, and Charles to kind of chop it up and say whether they agree with you as well. But this is the tidbit that I want to see if you're willing to do. Obviously, this is a positive. So you put some people at 10. I want you to know if you agree with the collaborative as well. So when we say a team, you tell us, well, yeah, I had them top 10. No, I didn't. I had them a little higher, a little lower. If you would, we can go through that. So let's get into it. First of all, receiving votes, you had Tennessee State. They end up getting 3 votes, which I thought was significant here because they were the only one that received vote, essentially in terms of the ranking. But most folks had teams with more points, and so everybody kind of agreed with everybody else. Tennessee State seemed like the lone ranger in terms of maybe 1 or 2 people had them in the top 10 while everybody didn't. So getting into the actual top 10, we're going to go 10 through 6, starting from the top so we can go all the way, starting from the bottom to go to the top. And number 1 remains nameless, but there is some intrigue about number 1 rankings that we had a little bit late here. So we'll get in that as we get to it. And number 2, Prairie View with 16 points. They were the 2021 SWAC West champs. took a step back last season as they lost a game to Mississippi Valley that if they won, they actually would have been back-to-back West Division and had another shot at Jackson State. It was not to be. That's all part of the history. But according to the HBCU Gameday staff, many of them have them at number 10, and they're at 10 with 16 points. At number 9, we come out of the SWAC, we go into the MEAC, the rival conference there between the SWAC and MEAC. We got the MEAC SWAC Challenge where they tip off, and then at the end of the season, as we all know, the champions of the two conferences face off in the Celebration Bowl. Could we get a Morgan State Prairie View matchup in the Celebration Bowl? Maybe it's a little too much early for that. But Damon Wilson heads into the second season of Baltimore with a lot of interest. And according to those folks on the staff, Morgan State, top 10 type interest as they come in number 9 with 19 points. Potentially the biggest question mark in the MEAC, according to Stephen Gaither. If the offense can develop some semblance of balance, the Bears definitely have a say-so in who wears the MEAC crown. Pretty good. I like that breakdown. I can agree with a lot of that. Great points made there. Bringing us to number 8, we're going to stay in the MEAC. South Carolina State looks like many people think they're going to bounce back. 27 points. This time last year, South Carolina State was thinking back-to-back. Now the refrain is don't call it a comeback. And South Carolina State looks to recover from a very disappointing season from 2021 Celebration Bowl. Can they get back in the fold? Coach Buddy Pugh is not able to stay down for long. But, man, you're talking about falling head over heels last year. It'll be interesting to see just if they climb back and how much they climb back as preseason number 8. Let's get into number 7 as we have to close out on the bottom 5. At number 7, none other than team outside of the MEAC SWAC. Previously in the MEAC is A&T, North Carolina A&T, 29 points. A little surprising here for me, but I can see it. North Carolina A&T started off slow last season, but nearly came back to win the Big South title. Great points. But it's a brand new day as Sam Washington is no longer with the team. Sam Washington out. New head coach Vincent Brown is in. And they moved to the Colonial Athletic Association. Many people believe that the Colonial is a top 3 FCS conference. We'll see what that looks like. They have the task of leading the program to see if they can rebuild this roster. They've lost some to transfers, and we'll see what that looks like. But let's close out on the bottom 5 at number 6 and get into some of this dialogue. At number 6, we go back to the SWAC with Alabama State, 33 points. Eddie Robinson led a feisty defense that challenged both Jackson State and FAMU last fall. The team has seen tough transfer portal losses and has a question at quarterback, but sometime will tell us if truly the SWAC contender is a contender or a pretender. Great point, which means we have in the bottom 5, we have 2 from the SWAC, 2 from the MEAC, 1 independent, and just outside is also the second independent. Again, 10, Prairie View, 16 points. 9, Morgan State, 19 points. 8, South Carolina State with 27 points. 7, North Carolina A&T with 29 points. And 6, Alabama State with 33 points. Stephen Gaither, you the guest. Tell us a little bit about where you had these teams. Did they match up with everybody else's votes?
Not quite. So I think
that's a nice ball.
Not quite. So number 10 for me was Prairie View. And number 10 was for them. I could easily probably put Texas Southern in that slot. They're probably interchangeable to me. But I got Prairie View number 10. Number 9, I had Alabama State. I had them number 9. Again, they surprised a lot of people last year. Kept close in some games, but weren't able to pull them out. And they got a lot of questions. They lost a lot of key players, some really talented players in the portal. So it'll be interesting to see what's what with them. I had Morgan State at number 8. They had some ups and downs last year, but I think, Coach Wilson, again, he got in, just around this time last year and, still a better year than they've been accustomed to the last couple of years. So I like the upward trajectory of them. I had South Carolina State at number 7. they are, obviously they fell a lot last year. They don't have Shaq Davis anymore. And they also did lose their leading tackler, BJ Davis, via the transfer portal too as well. But I believe Javonsky Green is still coming back, and Corey Fields. I think that there've been some changes on the staff, so we'll see what happens with them. But I believe Coach Pugh won't be in the bottom of the MEAC for very long. And then number 6, I had Howard. The runner-up, the co-champ last year. They did lose to Alabama State early in the year in the MEAC SWAC Challenge, and they had a slow start. They picked up momentum as the year went on. They just didn't have anything for North Carolina Central when they came to Durham that day. But I think, I think another program that's trending in the right direction. I think they got a lot of guys coming back, and so I can see them again competing for the MEAC. And so that's where I've got them slotted number 6.
I like that. Pretty good there. But let's go to our team, Charles Bishop. What do you say about 10 through 6? Either from Stephen Gaither's perspective or the staff perspective, where are you with these teams at the bottom 10?
I tend to agree with Stephen a little bit more than the staff in regards to, for me, when I looked at A&T at 7.
They say great minds think alike.
I was looking at A&T and I thought that was kind of high, especially with the coaching change and playing in such a tough conference in the CAA. But what's curious to me, I think, is South Carolina State, Morgan State. For me, I'm trying to take a look at which one is trending a little bit quicker in terms of the upward trajectory. Morgan State did much better than I've seen them do in many, many years. And, with Damon Wilson taking over that program, to me, they're ascending in the right direction, whereas I don't quite see South Carolina State ascending in that manner. In fact, for me, at least, Corey Fields took a step back last year. I would have thought that he would have improved upon this 2021 season, but it seems as though for whatever reason he went in a different direction last year. So for me, Morgan State is the team to watch, at least for me over there in the MEAC, especially knowing the sort of talent that David Wilson can put together. So I tend to agree with Steve quite a bit with regards to the way he looked at that bottom 10.
Yeah, I understand that there. I do like the idea that Morgan State, for a lot of people, are going to be the team to watch and keep your eyes on. It's going to be interesting. Are they going to be able to live up to those expectations, or do you get that sophomore slump? I'm going to be very intrigued about what that looks like. Let me go to AJ to kind of get his synopsis on that first 5 as we looked at it in terms of the top 10 of HBCU Game Day. Where did you come in terms of your alignment between Charles, Stephen Gaither, or the staff?
Well, I definitely think Morgan State should be higher than the number 9 that the people over at HBCU Game Day gave them. I honestly think Howard may have been a one-year wonder. I don't think they're going to go be a 1-4 team in the conference, but I don't think they are going to finish in second place again in the conference. That's going to be between Morgan State and South Carolina State, and I think I'm leaning more towards Morgan State right now because I'm a believer in Damon Wilson and the things that I saw him do at Bowie State. A lot of people don't know Bowie State had limited scholarships. They didn't have them full lot of the scholarships, and he was still able to somehow win 3 consecutive titles in a row there at Bowie State. So, he's got similar dynamics at Morgan State, but he's got a lot more scholarships to work with. So we've seen him do his magic with little to nothing. Let's see what he does when he's got a little bit more money in the bank. We'll just leave it like that.
Great stuff. I think all of us are on the same page in terms of Morgan State. Everybody is really intrigued to see what Morgan State can get done this year. I think you just put it out there, the whammy of the day, if we want to look at it, when you said Howard 1-year wonder in terms of them going back. to the bottom of the barrel, which is going to be fascinating.
I think they're just going to be mediocre. They're going to be on that 3-2, 2-3 line.
No, when I say bottom,
in the
yeah, I mean, to your point, the expectations though is they're going to take the next step. They were co-champs, second in terms of not getting the bid, but I think you make a wonderful point. Can they maintain that level? Can they take that next step? You're saying no, they're going to take a step back, whatever that looks like. And Charles, on the other hand, similar in terms of his look at A&T. He's concerned with A&T and South Carolina State, that they're going to retread and take that step back. One, because of the coach. The other one, a little question about Corey Fields in terms of the quarterback play, which is a question. Many people understand that he had obviously off the field battles he had to deal with and think that he'll come back stronger. But it's going to be something fascinating to watch. Let's take our break. We'll come back on the top 5. And it's always tough, I should say, on the first 5. But the top 5 usually is a little more balance and people seem to be on the same page. We'll see if that's the case as we unveil the top 5 of HBCU Game Day in terms of the staff looking at the poll rankings. I bet you they have North Carolina Central in it this year. But again, Steve, don't worry about it. Coaches don't worry about the poll ranking, do they? Well, maybe they do. When we get those press conferences, we'll find out. Steve will be right back after this break.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
The new GMC Sierra with hands-free driving offers the most advanced and luxurious pickup in its class. Yeah, it rocks.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
We got love it. This is Dr. Dill inside the HBCU Sports Lab as you get some of the back talk as we're excited about unveiling the top 5. And just understanding that we have folks from all sides of this. So you're going to get really how we think, not all that bias that you get out there from the fans perspective. We need them, though, because the fans would make us go around. But let's get in this top 5. Before we do that, let's give it back to you again. The first 5 including receiving votes, was Tennessee State. But then you get in those first 5. Number 10, Prairie View, 16 points. Number 9, Morgan State at 19 points. Number 8, South Carolina State with 27 points. At number 7, North Carolina A&T at 29 points. At number 6, Alabama State at 33 points. So let's get in the top 5. We have Howard. The team says, the staff says at HBCU Game Day, they said, don't worry about AD Drew. They'll be back. They have them at number 5 at 42 points. As we said, slow start last year. Howard took care of business in the MEAC and actually got a share. People forget that. They got a share of the championship. We're so focused on the team that actually represented for for the MEAC, and they represented in fine fashion, winning the Celebration Bowl against Jackson State. So you do have that. But Larry Scott says he's back in the football business, and he looks to maintain what he's built at Howard University. He has a quarterback coming back. Can't everybody say that in this top 10? So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. And he get a little more help on the defensive side. He may turn A.D. Drew into a believer. We'll see what that looks like as we move further. At number 4, we have Southern, 47 points. Somebody believes in Eric Dooley. Eric Dooley out there, Southern. Southern claimed the SWAC West title last season, his first year under Eric Dooley. So people remember, previous to that, he was a Prairie View. So that's 2 West Division championships that he's won in a row. Unfortunately for him, that's actually 3 losses to Jackson State, 2 last year and 1 previously in terms of championship game. One of those losses was a regular season game. But Southern claimed the SWAC West title last season, the first year under Dooley, as we said. Losing to Jackson State quarterback is still a question mark. I agree. But as long as the defense will remain strong, it should be in the race. They should have a strong defense, but they did lose some pieces up front. But many people, at least Southern fans, will tell you that that's one of the deepest units they have. We'll see later whether that's just Southern glasses or are they really accurate in regards to them understanding what they have on the football field. At number 3, Jackson State, yes, they lost Coach Prime. They lost Sanders, the quarterback. They lost others to transfer, but they also got transfer portal. They recruited very high. You remember the recruiting rankings. They were at number in the top 5. They're actually top 3 in terms of what they did recruiting-wise in most platforms out there. So Jackson State, since they're still in the business, they do not rebuild. They just reload. We'll see what that means. 50 points has them at number 3 for the HBCU Gameday staff. 2-time defending SWAC champion, Celebration Bowl runner-up. Jackson State has lost a lot from last year's team. A total of 12 all-SWAC players competing under Deion Sanders last year. Only one of them, tight end DJ Stevens, will hit the field against South Carolina State. First year, Coach T.C. Taylor and his staff have filled up their roster, so we'll see if there are enough talent to balance out the losses. One thing that's going to be fascinating for me in terms of Jackson State when we get into it is their tough schedule. This team could actually be better in terms of the overall, make a deeper run and still run the SWAC, but they might not have the undefeated record, as you see. So it'll be fascinating to see kind of how they navigate that first part of the season. For those that haven't seen it by now, all HBCU fans have, but they got South Carolina in the SWAC Challenge. Then they have the rivals out of the East in that Labor Day weekend game against FAMU. Then they have their big rival also in the SWAC coming out of the West Division, Southern. Now, that game does not count in the standings, so we got to remember that. See what that looks like as we get into number 2. Number 2, we just talked about. Those Rattlers, Florida A&M, 73 points. This is what we had a unique debate, as we talked about last week when North Carolina came out in their top part of the FC rankings. We said, would anybody in terms of the HBCU poll not have North Carolina Central number 1? Everybody pretty much said no, they'll be undefeated. So then I asked the natural question, Stephen Gaither. I asked, would anybody, and I think you were following us on the show that way, and it's kind of why I wanted to get your opinion once this came out. We also had a debate, would anybody not vote them number 1? Well, it didn't take long for us to find out with the HBCU Game Day. FAMU has 2 first-place votes as they get off the heat. Don't tell on your staff, so we're going to do that to you, Gaither. You ain't got to, unless it was you, you can say it yourself. But anybody else, don't put them out there like that. The past 3 seasons, 2022, 2021, 2019, obviously they didn't play in the COVID year 2020. FAMU has finished 9-2, yet has 0 conference championships and Celebration Bowl appearances. Amazing, think about it. 2019 team was kept out of the Celebration Bowl by self-imposed NBA sanctions. The 21-22 teams were kept out by Charles Bishop Jackson State as he continues to smile over there. Is this year the Will Lee Simmons and company finally brings true hardware back to Tallahassee? He's a bridesmaids at Prairie View. That time it was Grambling that snuck him down there. So he just finds a way to win a lot of games. But can he get it done this year? And maybe he'll face off against number 1, North Carolina Central, 76 points, who had 6 first-place votes in terms of what took place there. We're going to go back to you, Steve, a little differently this time. You don't have to break down what you did, but I do want to know, did you have FAMU number 1? Were you one of those voters?
Nah. No, I didn't. North Carolina Central. Davius Richard last year.
You learned your lesson last year, huh? You didn't have to worry about no smoke for Trey.
Yeah, well, obviously, and I told the guys last year at the MEAC Media Day. For me, last year, one of the reasons why I wasn't as high on him as I probably should have been, the eyeball test, a couple of the games that I went to in 2021. They didn't separate. I mean,
let me save you this, Stephen. Let me save this. I'm reminding because our boy Joshua Sim Sr., he hates when I put this out. This is a team, not to say the Valley couldn't do this because we saw what they did against Prairie View. They had a chance to win it. But remember, this is a team that went down the Valley and lost to Mississippi Valley State.
That's
Charles
fair.
always reminds us about that. Please proceed.
Yeah, they lost to Valley. They were down in the second half to my alma mater, Winston-Salem State, who was not a good team in the CIAA. I know they had some players that they had out, and that was a game that I was at. They did have an impressive comeback against Norfolk State that year. But Davius Richard was fully healthy this year, and he did his thing, and so clearly he comes back. Latrell Collier comes back, and they have a lot of guys that are coming back and are really going to be a force to be reckoned with. So they were clear number 1 for me. FAMU, I mean, again, they've got the recipe. They win a lot of games, but everything's going to come down to what they do against Jackson State in week 1. And even then, though, I'll say this, because if you go back to even 2018, they didn't go 9-2, but they did have a chance in Willie Simmons' first year to win the MEAC and
last 3.
And they lost the last. They fumbled it away. So they have to prove that even if they get past that first game, it's great to do, but then they're still going to have to carry the flag the rest of the way for me. Jackson State, I know all of the fans besides Charles think that they should still be number 1. I think they're still going to walk on water, and I think they're still going to be good and competitive. But again, for me, if you take the name off of it and ask any team, if a team loses 11 of their 12 all-conference players and their head coach and has a rookie head coach, are they going to go undefeated? Are they going to be the best out of I just don't see it. We've been wrong before, clearly last year, but I think they're in a similar situation as North Carolina A&T. Obviously, actually, when you look at having a first-year head coach, losing a lot of players, and obviously they had what they've done the last 2 years speaks for itself. And I think Coach Taylor will be fine. But I think again, just with everything that they've lost, of course they got a lot coming back in the portal. But again, what did we learn last year with Alabama A&M in the portal? They had a whole new platoon of guys from the portal. So we'll see. We'll see what Jackson State does, but I think they'll still be in the mix. Then I had Southern at 4, and I had A&T at 5 actually. So we'll see. But I think for me, number 1 and number 2 were kind of locked in. Number 3 as well, and then after that, there's pretty much leeway in between 4 and I'd say 8 for me.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. We're gonna do a great tease. We're gonna hold on to AD Drew and Charles as we come back after the break and get their analysis of what Stephen Gaither. Yeah, I know you're ready to jump in there. That's why we kind of put the plug on it and get some suspense going here. Let's come back on the other side and do the last segment, and we'll see what these gentlemen say. And then we get some questions in here. And I'll let it out now so you get a chance to ponder it. Ricky Burton says, no Graham or Alcorn. I understand the question of Alcorn, but I'm fascinated about to see what people think that Graham is going to take that next step. We'll see. Stick with us at the end of the break, and we'll see what these two gentlemen say. Get a little retort from Stephen Gaither. Great breakdown there. Great analysis you provide, Gaither. I'm on your side. I agree with the top 10 poll rankings, at least in terms of how you broke them down. We'll see what it means at the end of the year. We'll give you week-to-week updates. We'll tell you who's hot, who's not. Things change. That's just why we call it the season and why we tell you They have to play the game. Stick with us after this break.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Don't worry, Ma. We'll be there soon.
We? Is this the one?
Well, let's say I found the one who takes me to another level. Always stays calm under pressure. Most importantly, the one that helps me discover the coolest places.
This sounds wonderful.
Come outside, I'll introduce you.
They're here.
Definitely the one.
Introducing the all-new Nissan Frontier.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplify Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplify Development Services.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment. We have AD Drew, and we have our guest, Stephen Gaither, HBCU Gameday, breaking down what the staff did for the top 10 rankings. Let me rewind, give it to y'all again. We finished with the top 5, but I'm going to take you all through the top 10. Outside receiving votes as Tennessee State could not get in the top 10, but they are looking in. At number 10, Prairie View A&M at 16, Morgan State at number 19, South Carolina State at 8 with 27 points, and I should say that's Morgan State at 9 with 19 points, Prairie View with 16 points at number 10. Bringing us to number 7, North Carolina A&T with 29 points. And number 6, Alabama State with 33 points, getting those top 5 programs. Howard at 42 points, Southern at 47, Jackson State at 50 at number 3, number FAMU, 73 points, and 2 first-place votes. At number 1, North Carolina Central is 76 points, 6 first-place votes. As we look at the top 10, let's go to you, Drew. What do you think about the top 5 teams? You already told us, obviously, Howard is too high for you. But besides that, what else do you think?
Well, I know there's at least one rattler on the HBCU Gameday staff. I'm going to assume that was one of the first place votes. Oh, the 2 rattlers on the staff now?
Tell him on it like that.
So, like that. Enough said. We've done the homework, Dr. Cavil. We know who it is. So
only one of them voted for FAMU number 1 though.
Ooh, I'm have to
now you got to think about it a little bit. You saved. Good job.
All right, but I'm disappointed in the poll for one reason, and that is Alcorn State is not in the poll. Not only are they not in the top 10, they aren't even receiving votes. And we were talking about during the break. Nobody could tackle me on Howard last year. You're adding.
You could not. Oh,
you're adding transfer quarterback from Missouri, Tyler Macon, to the Bigs, who is going to be in the Bigs for one of the top quarterbacks in the SWAC this upcoming year, in my opinion. So I'm thinking Alcorn definitely should be represented. And I remember last year, Media Day, I said the West was going to be won with a 5-3 record. Y'all laughed at me, and I was right. I'm thinking. Everybody laughed at me. Everybody laughed at me when I said the West was going to be in with a 5-3 record, and don't be surprised if it was a 4-4. And we almost had a 4-4 team winning if we'd have had that loss on that last day. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead now.
3 quarters.
I'm going ahead now and make that same prediction. I think there's so much parity in the West. We're going to see a similar type result in the West this year because all those teams are they're good. They all have their good points, but they're all flawed in some type of way. At least right now in the preseason, I think we're going to have that same 5-3 where anybody can beat anybody on any given day in the West this year.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Charles, what do you say?
No, I can agree with you, AD, in regards to Alcorn. I think Alcorn is one of those teams that I definitely would have had top 10, if for nothing, but one of the toughest running backs in the SWAC, Jarvie Howard. Like we mentioned, he is just a load to bring down. I will say this about Jackson State. Obviously, there's been a lot of change there, and when you lose that amount of talent, I think if you're a Jackson State fan, and you're still thinking it's going to be a repeat of 21-22, you do have rose-colored glasses on. I do believe it's going to be different. It's going to be different. That's not to say they don't have talent, and we talked about the first 4 games of the season. I believe if Jackson State can get through those first 4 games, that's a team you really don't want to see once you get to late October into November. And it's one thing that I always remember that Coach McNair said at Alcorn, that once a team has championship DNA within their system, they are hard to take out. And that's what makes Jackson State scary going toward the back part of the season. If you're a Jackson State fan, I would take a look at this ranking, and I would be wondering who siphoned off these 2 first-place votes from North Carolina Central, because with Florida A&M being 2. Because I think most Jackson State fans just do not have that brand fear of Florida A&M. It has been a second or 2 since Florida A&M has beaten Jackson State, and that's going back, a coach or 2 ago, where Jackson State just does not have this all shucks thing going with Florida A&M Rattlers. So the Orange Blossom Classic will be tremendously fun, I think, this upcoming season. So if there is a switch maybe in the top 5, I go with the Celebration Bowl runner-up at number 2 versus number 3, even with all that talent being lost. But kudos to TC Taylor. Kudos to that Jackson State staff. They still recruited their A off in terms of getting a lot of talent to come to Jackson State. So I don't think the fall off is going to be as drastic as some people are thinking with Jackson State.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Great analysis. I'm not sure about rose-colored glasses. I'd probably say blue bonnet colored glasses.
No doubt. No doubt.
Can I ask a question before we jump off of this?
Hold on, because I wanted to get this in here. To credit to Stephen Gaither, there were a couple of teams that they came back and said some teams that people should keep their eyes on. And that none other than Texas Southern, Alcorn State that you mentioned, AD Drew, as well as you, Charles, and Alabama A&M to surprise some people. I like that pick with Alabama A&M. I know a lot of folks are not high on Connor Maynard, but it'll be interesting to see, does he got the quarterback? If he does, obviously that's going to go a long way with Alabama A&M. So I'm fascinated. The other team, obviously, I told you about Ricky Burton talking about Grambling. So
traditionally, they don't stay down long.
Back around to everybody. I want to start with you, Steve, and a little bit your thoughts on those 3 teams. If you had to pick one of them to jump in the top 10, which one do you have, Stephen?
Yeah, I feel like Alcorn State may give me the same feeling that I got last year when North Carolina Central went to the championship game. I mean, again, another team with, an average, mediocre record, a little bit below, but a lot of close games and a really good player, key player on the offense. If they can get a quarterback, if they can get their quarterback answered, which usually is a strength of their program, then they'll be right in the mix, and they definitely could be back in a place that they're still looking to pick up a win in Atlanta. But hey, we know they know how to get there.
So it's the whole SWAC, Steve. So don't feel bad.
Hey,
I'm getting old now, but I think I remember Grambling winning one of them. But yeah,
right. Charles, you were gonna jump in here. What did you have to say? What direction you?
Well, Grambling is an intriguing team, and I think you touched on the parity, especially in regards to the SWAC West. But traditionally, if you watch the SWAC for I don't know how many, Grambling just doesn't stay down for forever. So I am looking for a certain amount of bounce back from that Grambling program, and I do think the West is so wide open this season that we could be talking about a Texas Southern or a Grambling come November being right there in the thick of things. So those are two intriguing teams, very much so in the West. And then we already mentioned some of the pieces that Alcorn have coming in. This is going to be a fun season. Especially you take a look at the breadth of the SWAC, but especially the SWAC West.
Eddie Drew, I'm gonna make it a little harder on you. You've done all these homework assignments and you turned the first one in already. You turned it in so early that I haven't even had a chance to break it all down. I looked at it. I am still grading it, Eddie Drew, so I want to know great work there. But if you couldn't pick Alcorn State, because you already told me that you think they should be in 10, if you had to look at Texas Southern, Grambling, or Alabama A&M, Alabama A&M and Texas Southern were the other two of the three teams, including Alcorn, that HBCU Gameday thought about. But since our viewer talked about Grambling, if I had to have Alabama A&M, Grambling, and Texas Southern, which of those three teams would you say have the biggest opportunity to be in the top 10 at the end of the year?
Without having the schedule in front of me, just based on what we know that coming back here, before I answer this question, you would know this since you worked there. Is Andrew Body coming back and healthy, Dr. McGee?
Yes, thus far he's healthy. I had a little concern early, but he's out there and he's looking the part. So far, so good in terms of his health and being able to do the things that he did. But again, it'll be interesting when it becomes under live fire, to your point, which is a great question. It's a little different running around there looking lively when you have a little more freedom and folks are not coming down the barrel of the beast, which is different when you start out the season with your in-state rival Prairie View, which he has not, nor has any Texas Southern quarterback for the last couple of games had success at Prairie View. So great question.
Yeah, and it's just like FAMU, Jackson State. If Texas Southern can get over that hurdle, just like FAMU can get over that Jackson State hurdle, Texas Southern could be a team that could make a run in the West. That would be my sleeper team. But I did have one question for everybody. Is everybody cool with Southern being a number 4? I'm not necessarily cool with Southern at number 4.
We had them in number 4 last year, and they were in the Final Four, if you think about it. So not super impressive. They weren't super impressive during the regular season, but I believe they'll be in the mix at the end.
I almost have Southern at 4 by default.
What are your thoughts on Southern?
When has Eric Dooley not won? I mean, I'm cool with Southern being number 4, and especially looking at some of the things they did defensively last year. That's a solid 4 right there. They have. And we all have talked about it. Quarterback play was not up to par. Just to be quite honest. If they have some changes offensively, I could see them being right there in the mix in terms of the upper echelon teams in the SWAC West.
Drew, go ahead and finish up with your analysis that you.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's like Southern is kind of almost there, like by default, because everybody that's listed behind Southern is flawed or has so many question marks, and Southern really only has one serious question mark, and that's the quarterback. Who's going to be quarterback? I mean, they got about 22 of them in camp right now competing for the starting job. So
I just don't know that any of the other teams have gotten better. And
that's my point. That's my point. That's why I say Southern is almost there by default, because you can go down the list and see so much wrong with so many questions with numbers 5 through 10 on the list. You have no choice but to put Southern right there behind those top 3, which everybody knows. In everybody's poll, those are going to be the top 3 preseason. You can almost guarantee that.
I almost think you could say, to your point, 5 through 15. When you add those other 3 or 4 teams that could in many people's poll will probably be top 10. So I think you make a wonderful point when you talk about outside of those top 3. I think there becomes some question marks in terms of who's going to fill in the rest of the gap. I think people are pretty solid, as I said, in the top 5, certainly top 3 between Jackson State, FAMU, North Carolina Central. People may kind of debate and argue about 2 and 3. I think you could do that fairly in regards to just how they matchup has came back the last couple of years. Yeah. Not much question mark in number 1, but I think everybody's comfortable about those top 3 if people are kind of serious and not just getting into their bragging points in terms of what they want to see happen. With that being said,
it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's like the Wizard of Oz. Everybody's looking for something: a brain, a heart.
Courage. That's a perfect
courage.
Everybody
quarterback, defense.
Yeah. Perfect analogy in terms of this: the season of the Oz. Who's gonna have all 3? Heart, the courage, and the brain. With that being said, I do like one final thing that you talked about, AD Drew, and we'll get a chance to do that. And Steve, you will come back when we get a chance to break that down. We'll give you some time to let you know. But I want to do a breakdown in terms of over the next couple of weeks. We break down the schedule. One thing is fascinating about me. Oftentimes we look at this in isolation when we talk about teams, and we look rightfully so in terms of who's bringing back what. Who's not bringing back something, who has a strong defense, who should have a strong offense, special teams play. But when you start to break it down a little more, when you break down the schedule, and we've seen this done on HBCU Nightly a little while back, and it had a lot of dialogue, but it gets very intriguing when you break down the schedule and you see where a team has to play on the road or at home. A lot of times you don't think about that when you're just looking at an overall record. And then you start to look at maybe games in a row. Who plays maybe 2 or 3 tough games in a row and maybe 2 road games, or who has a tougher team but they have them at home, can kind of change your perspective when you start breaking things down by a schedule to see teams' thought process of likelihood of their overall record and what does that mean conference finish. So we'll get a chance to break that down and really get in a little more of this. This was great dialogue when we had a chance to talk about the top 10. With that being said, we're going to close out and say that's a close to the show. This is Dr. Cavil inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Thank you for all our lab listeners joining us and bringing us all this good dialogue. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. I want to thank our guest, Stephen Gaither at HBCU Gameday, and the staff for putting out the poll rankings. I'm sure Stephen Gaither made you all out in terms of how they broke down what they did in terms of their voting. Again, we want to thank listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Obviously, A.D. Drew here is no longer a guest. He is an assistant professor, I should say. Continue track. We have the other Professor Charles. We'll talk about Mike and see if we can find him as he is doing his rounds of duty. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday at 6 o'clock. We might be able to get you in some love, your little talk specific on Tennessee to see what is going on there, what are people's thoughts. And then the following week, we may even go A&T to see people's framework. Are those programs progressing? People would like to see them at this time. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on DRKNYATTACAVIL on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter. Facebook and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big and continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Drew?
Lecture.
Dismissed.
Have a life.
Great stuff.